high definition.
Welcome back. Just ahead of 7 o'clock here on this Friday. U.S. Senator Steve Daines joining us this morning. What an interesting morning it has been, and you and I were chatting. I think Conrad Burns would have enjoyed this morning with the music and all the fun that's going on here, don't you think?
He'd have loved that Made in Montana music, no doubt about it.
Let's talk about that. Conrad Burns passing yesterday at 81 at his home. Tell me a little bit about Conrad Burns from your point of view, if you can.
Well, I got the news last night. I was flying back from Washington, D.C. I spoke with Phyllis, Conrad's wife, and we need to express condolences to Phyllis, to Garrett and Keely, their children. What a tremendous loss, and what an incredible leader and big-hearted man as Conrad Burns. I just have so many memories of Conrad. In fact, the last time I spoke with Conrad, it was about a month ago. I was in Billings. We sat down and had a long conversation. And one thing, whenever I saw Conrad, he'd say, "How you doing, Steve?" And I'd say, "Conrad, I'm doing great." And he'd always come back to me and say, "Steve, you are doing great." He was that kind of encouraging man.
If you can, just briefly share a story with me about Senator. We all have. You heard Senator Baucus. We all have stories of Conrad Burns.
A horse or a cow. But Conrad, in 1982, President Reagan came to Billings, came to the Metro, and Conrad was on a horse. He was a county commissioner. The security detail comes rolling in the motorcade, and Ronald Reagan jumps out and runs up to Conrad and introduces himself. And Conrad gave a Montana welcome that I can't say on live TV here. And Ronald Reagan got a big laugh out of it, turned around to the security detail and said, "Boys, you can tell we're in Montana." And it's just Conrad Burns. He has such a big heart for our state, for our nation. He was a U.S. Marine, a faithful husband, a faithful servant. He'll be dearly missed.
On the last election that he won, he joined us live on the studio, my friend Dennis Carlson and I, on the predecessor of this station, live that day on the set. We were a raised set, and he pushed away after the interview when the chair tipped over, and he smacked his head on the back of the set.
Oh.
We use language that we couldn't use on the air for that as well, but he got up and he goes, "Thank you for knocking some sense into me," and he went back out and did his campaign. So
that's Conrad Burns. And, you know, he's so respected in Washington, D.C. His legend lives on amongst the hallways there in the Capitol.
Have you had a chance to talk to Phyllis, how she's doing?
I spoke to Phyllis last night, and Phyllis, she said that Conrad's last day, yesterday morning, he was having coffee with his friends in Billings. He came home. He was sitting in his favorite chair, and he passed very suddenly. And Phyllis, she had such a great attitude. She's doing very well considering the tremendous loss.
Just briefly before we wrap this up, Senator, we've talked about all these great stories and the fun stories and that. What do you think Conrad Burns' legacy is going to be for Montana?
Well, a couple things. First of all, what he did for building out telecommunication infrastructure in our state. When I worked at Right Now Technologies, one of our first global meetings where we connected London and Tokyo and our offices across the United States in one live meeting for the company, it was at the Conrad Burns Center with the telecommunications. That says something. He was ahead of his time. They think of him as a Montana cowboy. He was a Montana cowboy who was very technically savvy, and he did so much for our state.
Well, maybe not a lot of people know that, but right before Montana This Morning comes on every morning, we have the Ag Report from the Northern Ag Network, an organization that Conrad Burns started all those years ago.
You know, and that's really, his heart was agriculture. I mean, the guy was a high school football referee. He was a county commissioner. He was a broadcaster, a U.S. Senator, a U.S. Marine. What a legacy of service to our state and to our nation.
One of the best joke tellers I've ever known as well.
And one of the best storytellers there ever was.
And we can't share any of them, can we?
Oh, most of them we probably can't.
Again, U.S. Senator Steve Daines joining us this morning. Thanks. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing your memories with Conrad Burns with us.
Honored to be here.